We live in a world where people mistake volume for strength. Everyone wants to be heard on social media, in family arguments, in love, at work. But let me ask you, if speaking louder made people wiser, why are so many still miserable? The truth is simple, but almost no one lives it. The most powerful moves in life are made in silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you refuse to waste your voice where it will not matter. Think about the last time you regretted your words. Maybe with your partner, when anger made you reckless. You never understand me. And later you wished you could take it back. Maybe with your pishes, when one defensive reply, "That's not my fault," cost you trust. Maybe with family, when an argument left scars no apology could erase. "I don't care what you think anymore." Haven't you noticed? Words spoken in heat almost always become weapons turned against us. But silence, chosen at the right time, is different. Silence can end conflict without humiliation. It can expose arrogance without resistance. It can turn rumors into smoke, anger into stillness, and loss into a moment of dignity instead of despair. In this video, I'll take you through 9 situations where silence is not weakness, but mastery. And I promise, one of them will hit you so hard, you'll never see your daily life the same way again. And stay with me, because after the 5th situation, I've hidden something for you, a gift unlike anything you've heard before. A secret weapon that can melt anger, dissolve grief, and silence the weight of unfair words. I won't reveal it now, only when the time is right. But if you're here for more than ideas, if you're ready for something you can feel in your own hands, this will be it. A fire dies without oxygen. So do most conflicts, if you let silence starve them. When you choose silence, it becomes strength. When silence is forced on you, it becomes a cage. If this topic already speaks to you, hit like right now, so this message finds the men and women out there who need it most. 1. When you're unfairly criticized. Few things cut deeper than unfair criticism. It strikes without warning, sometimes from people you trust, sometimes from strangers who barely know you. At work, it may sound like a manager dismissing months of effort with one careless line, "This isn't good enough." At home, it could be your partner saying in anger, "You never listen to me." Among friends, it might be a careless remark, "You always think you're better than us." Words like these sink into the chest, not because they are true, but because they feel unjust. And here is where most of us fall into the trap. We rush to fight back. We defend ourselves with louder words, hoping to erase the sting. That's not true. You don't understand. I worked harder than anyone. But here's the paradox. The louder we argue, the smaller we appear. The more we explain, the more guilty we seem. The Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, the insult itself carries no blade. It's your mind that sharpens it. Now picture another way. Imagine in that moment, at work, in family, in love, you don't rush to speak. You pause. You breathe. You let the words hang in the air like smoke. Without your reaction, they lose weight. Without your defense, they cannot dig into you. Silence here is not surrender. It is strategy. It is proof that your dignity doesn't depend on someone else's opinion. Think of the Bible. When Jesus stood before his accusers, they hurled insults, false charges, and hatred at him. Yet he often answered with silence. He didn't try to argue his way out, didn't waste words on those blinded by rage. That silence carried more weight than any defense. It revealed the emptiness of their accusations. That is the quiet power of restraint. The truth is, Silence reveals more about the critic than about you. Their anger, their insecurity, their impatience, all expose the moment you refuse to add fuel. While they waste energy, you conserve it. While they wound themselves, you remain whole, because sometimes the strongest voice is the one that chooses not to speak. 2. When solitude becomes strength, most people fear being alone. They see it as emptiness, as rejection, as proof that something is missing. That's why so many fill every silence with chatter, every weekend with noise, every night with a glowing screen. But here's the contrarian truth. Solitude is not weakness. It is a forge. And the person who learns to stand alone becomes unshakable when the world shakes. Think about it. The strongest oak does not grow in a crowded garden where other trees shield it. It grows on the hilltop, battered by wind, shaped by storms. Alone, it learns to dig its roots deeper. So do we. Solitude is the wind that hardens us, the space that deepens us. History and philosophy remind us of this again and again. Thoreau once wrote, "I never found a companion that was so companionable as solitude." Alone time is not loneliness. It is the closest friend we often neglect. It is the harbor where we steady our hands before we sail again into the world. And think of great creators, Einstein walking alone with his violin, or Darwin spending years in quiet study. They weren't hiding from the world. They were drawing strength from solitude to reshape it. Yet today, solitude is misunderstood. Stay home too often and people whisper, "He must be lonely." Choose not to chase every social invitation and they ask, "Is something wrong?" But the truth is, solitude is not the absence of connection. It's the presence of self. Without it, every relationship becomes need, not choice. Every opinion becomes noise, not conviction. Picture this. After a long family quarrel, instead of adding more words, you step outside for a quiet walk. The street lights flicker, the night air cools your breath, and slowly the anger untangles. Or at work, you close the office door for 10 minutes, no emails, no voices, just pen and paper. In that pause, ideas you couldn't see in the chaos suddenly appear. Alone, you see clearer. The danger isn't solitude, it's never facing yourself. Because the man or woman who cannot bear their own company will always be a prisoner to others. And the one who can sit in stillness, they become sharper, their mind clearer, like the surface of a still lake reflecting truth without distortion. Their senses grow more alert, and yes, they even carry youth longer, because a calm spirit does not age as quickly as a restless one. A still mind is not empty, it is ready. When was the last time solitude made you stronger instead of weaker? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to read it. And remember, somewhere deeper in this journey, after the fifth situation, lies something born from silence itself. A moment that can unchain more than solitude ever could. 3. When anger demands your voice. Marcus Aurelius warned, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" The insult lasts a moment, but the fallout of our reaction can last a lifetime. I remember a man who once came to me for guidance, a business owner in his mid-40s. He told me how one furious outburst nearly destroyed his company. An important client criticized him unfairly in front of others, and he snapped back with sarcasm. For a few seconds, he felt powerful, but within weeks, the client pulled out, employees lost trust, and his reputation sank. He admitted, "It wasn't their words that cost me everything. It was my reaction." Now imagine a different picture. You're provoked, words boiling on your tongue. Instead of shouting, you pause. You let silence do what fire cannot. That pause is not weakness, it's mastery. Just as a driver controls a car by holding the brakes, not the horn, you control yourself by holding your response. Here's the paradox. People think expressing anger shows strength, but often it only reveals how easily we can be controlled. The world pushes one button and we explode on command. Think of a husband who blurts out, "I regret marrying you," in fury. The moment passes, but the echo never fully dies. Even in literature, this truth shines. In Homer's Iliad, the greatest warrior had one fatal weakness, his Achilles' heel. And it wasn't his body, but his rage. The strongest people in real life do the opposite. They choose calm over conquest. Their silence in anger becomes their power. So what's the practice? Next time anger surges, step away for 20 seconds. Count your breath to fwayenes. If I release this anger, will it solve or will it scar? That pause is your shield. Control ends where anger begins. Take back the boundary, because anger itself is not the enemy, your lack of control is. The one who controls his anger controls his fate. The one who does not hands it over to anyone who knows how to provoke him. 4. When freedom speaks louder than words. We often think freedom means saying whatever we want, whenever we want. But let me ask you, if you cannot hold your tongue, are you truly free or chained to impulse? If every insult can pull words out of you, is that strength or slavery? And if your silence is a choice, not a cage, isn't that the deepest freedom of all? I remember once in my 20s when I joined a group of friends teasing a man whose startup had just collapsed. We laughed louder than we felt, threw careless jokes just to fit in, and for a moment I mistook noise for belonging. Weeks later I saw the damage, his silence, his withdrawal, and the shame in my own chest. That mistake taught me, freedom is not following the crowd to hurt someone. It's having the courage to stay quiet when others clap for cruelty. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus, once a slave, wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." His chains were real, yet he understood that the deepest prison is not made of iron, but of emotions we can't govern. If anger, fear, or pride control you, then you are never truly free. Think about relationships. Some couples use silence as punishment, refusing to speak for days. That isn't freedom. That is silence as a prison. But when you choose silence wisely, refusing to escalate, refusing to wound, you free both yourself and the other person from a spiral of regret. Or in society, rumors spread, arguments roar, opinions collide. Freedom isn't proving your point in every debate. Freedom is knowing you don't need to win noise to win peace. Sometimes the man who walks away from an argument is not weak. He is the only one free. There's an irony. Silence looks like nothing, yet it is the most decisive act of all. Because when you choose silence, you are saying, "I will not let your chaos dictate my inner state." That choice is freedom no one can take away. Freedom isn't more words, it's fewer compulsions. And remember, after the fifth situation, there's something waiting, a gift of silence that shows freedom in a way words never could. 5. When silence guards your purpose. A close friend once told me he dreamed of opening his own shop. He was excited, fearful of plans, already picturing the shelves, the customers, even the smell of fresh paint on the walls. But instead of letting the idea grow in silence, he rushed to share it with a distant relative. The response? "Don't be stupid. Shops always fail. You'll lose everything." That single conversation drained him. Days later, the plan was gone. Not because it was impossible, but because he gave away his fragile seed of purpose too soon, and someone's fear stepped on it before it could take root. This is what happens when we reveal too much too early. Purpose is like a newborn flame. In the beginning, it needs protection, silence, and air of its own. If you expose it to the wind of other people's doubts, it flickers out before it ever lights the room. A seed doesn't need applause. It needs shade. Protect it until it grows roots. I've seen it again and again. People with brilliant ideas, but they trade them for approval too quickly. They speak before they act. They seek validation instead of vision. And every time the noise of others drowns out the voice within. Silence then is not emptiness. It is a shield. It's the space where you let your dream gather strength before exposing it to the world. Seneca once said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." And I would add, if you speak before you're ready, even the best wind won't carry you. Think of your own life. How many times have you said yes when you meant no? How often have you let the expectations of family, colleagues, or society steer your choices? Silence, deliberate, chosen silence, is where you step back and ask, is this truly my path or just their noise? Look at the greatest builders of history, innovators, artists, leaders. They all had moments of retreat, moments where they shut out the world to listen only to the compass inside. Purpose isn't found in applause, it's forged in silence. So I'll ask you this. How many of your ideas died because you let someone else's fear infect them? And what might happen if you gave your next dream the silence it deserves? So try it. The next time before sharing your plans with anyone, live with them in silence for 7 days. Write them down, refine them, let them breathe. And only when you feel they are stronger than someone's doubts, then speak. Sometimes silence alone is not enough. The pain still echoes inside, an insult that lingers, a loss that suffocates, a criticism that haunts you in the night. You hold back your words, but they burn inside your chest. This is where the silent letter practice begins. When you feel the weight of grief, anger, or betrayal, take a pen and a plain sheet of paper. Sit alone for 10 minutes. Write a letter by hand that you will never send. Pour everything into it. The rage, the sorrow, the unspoken truths you've carried too long. Don't edit, don't judge, don't worry how it sounds, just release it. Ink is safer than memory. Let the paper hold what your heart should not. When you finish, read one final line aloud, like a mantra of release. These words die here. Only I remain. Now I rise stronger than ever. Then let the paper go. Tear it into pieces or burn it safely. Watch it dissolve as your burden leaves with it. This is not therapy. This is ritual. A way to take what poisons you and give it a grave outside yourself. A way to turn silence into freedom. Try it once and you'll feel it. Lighter, clearer, ready to face life again without the weight you were never meant to carry. If you try this exercise tonight, come back tomorrow and share in the comments what you released. And if you know someone carrying anger or grief, send them this video. It may be exactly what they need. 6. When rumors spread. Rumors are like smoke. They twist, they spread, and if you chase them, you only end up choking yourself. I've lived this in my own family. When I chose a different path than what was expected, whispers began. Some said I was irresponsible. Others that I was ungrateful. The urge to defend myself was overwhelming. I wanted to argue at every dinner table, correct every lie. But a mentor once told me, if you spend all your time swatting at smoke, you'll forget to build a fire that shows the truth. So I stayed silent. I kept working. And slowly the rumors faded because they had nothing left to feed on. The people who mattered saw the results, not the noise. That silence became my shield. It felt like walking through a storm without opening an umbrella. Yes, I got wet, but I kept walking and the clouds broke on their own. The Stoics echoed this wisdom. Epictetus said, "If anyone speak badly of you, do not defend yourself against his words, but reply, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only the seas.'" It sounds sharp, but it points to a deeper truth. Rumors say more about those who spread them than about the one they target. Think of a friend who spends their life chasing gossip. Every word spoken against them, they fight back. Do they look strong or do they look desperate? Contrast that with the man or woman who continues their work, their path, their purpose, letting actions speak louder. Silence here is not surrender. It is a declaration. I will not live at the mercy of other people's tongues. Rumors are stray dogs fed by attention, starved by silence. Chase them and they bark louder, bite harder. Ignore them and sooner or later they wander off in search of another hand to feed them. So next time you hear your name tangled in stories, pause. Ask yourself, will answering give the rumor weight, or will silence let it collapse under its own emptiness? 7. When ignorance tests your patience. The Buddha once said, "Do not respond to anger with anger. Conquer anger with silence and you will find peace." Ignorance has a sound. It's loud, certain, and often wrong, and you see it even in children. A little boy once told me with great seriousness that the moon must follow him home every night because it was always above his head. He wasn't trying to deceive, he simply didn't know better. We smile at that kind of innocence. Yet when adults cling to their own illusions with the same certainty, we no longer laugh, we argue. We forgive the child's certainty. We must outgrow the adults. But here's the twist. The more you argue with ignorance, the more it multiplies. It's like shouting at an echo. It only comes back louder. I remember a neighbor once lecturing me about my own craft, insisting he knew more though he had never lived a day in it. Every part of me wanted to fight, to correct, to prove. But I chose silence. I let his words hang in the air with no resistance. Hours later, another friend in the room pulled me aside and said, "You didn't have to say a thing." He showed himself that is the power of restraint. When ignorance talks, silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you refuse to waste your energy proving what time will reveal. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength to answer ignorance with silence is to step out of its storm and keep your own clarity intact." Think of it like water. When the river is muddy, no amount of stirring makes it clear, but leave it untouched, and in time it settles, revealing the bottom. Your silence is that stillness. It lets the mud sink on its own. So ask yourself, the next time someone insists on a falsehood with all the volume of truth, will you spend your breath trying to outshout them? Or will you let silence expose what noise never can? 8. When injustice confronts you. Injustice feels like fire. It burns before it touches you. A rude boss taking credit for your work. A family member twisting the truth to make you the villain. A system that seems blind to fairness. Everything in you wants to shout, to demand, to fight. But here's the hard lesson. Rage against injustice often gives it more power, because when your enemy controls your reaction, they control you. I remember a friend who once lost a promotion he deserved. The decision was unfair, the politics obvious. He stormed into the manager's office, demanded an explanation, raised his voice. "This was mine. You know it," he shouted. The manager leaned back, expression cold, and replied, "Calm down." This outburst only proves why you weren't chosen. By the end, nothing changed, except his reputation, which never recovered. His anger gave the injustice longer life. Now contrast that with another story. A woman I once knew was wrongly accused by her relatives of taking money that wasn't hers. Everyone expected her to shout, to fight, to defend herself at every gathering. But she stayed calm, said nothing, and kept living with honesty. Months later, the truth came out. The money had never gone missing at all. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was dignity. And in the end, the same relatives who doubted her felt shame, not triumph. The Stoics spoke of this again and again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." What a paradox. When the world tries to pull you into its ugliness, your silence becomes the refusal to mirror it. But silence here does not mean passivity. It means stepping back, breathing, choosing the right moment and the right words. Sometimes it means letting actions, not arguments, prove your strength. Think of injustice as a thief. If you shout and chase wildly, you exhaust yourself while they slip away. But if you stay calm, watchful, and patient, you learn their pattern, and one day you stop them for good. A jeweler doesn't chase a thief into every alley. He fortifies the vault and changes the locks. That's justice with discipline. So the next time injustice confronts you, remember, the choice is not between silence and justice. It is between reaction and mastery. And the quiet choice may be the one that turns the fire into light. 9. When insults come your way. Insults are like hooks. If you bite, you're caught. If you stay still, they fall harmlessly to the ground. I remember once walking with a friend when a stranger shouted something crude from across the street. My friend spun around, ready to argue, ready to defend his honor. But what honor is there in wrestling with mud? I kept walking. He asked me later, "Why didn't you say anything?" And I answered, "Because not every voice deserves my breath." The Stoics taught this clearly. Epictetus wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. The insult itself isn't what hurts, it's our choice to swallow the poison. Refuse to drink, and the poison loses all its power." Think about it. When someone hurls words meant to cut you down, they are really revealing themselves, not you. Their anger, their jealousy, their emptiness. To answer is to validate it. To stay silent is to expose it. Think of ancient warfare. Generals often sent soldiers to hurl insults at the enemy camp, hoping the opposing commander would lose control and charge too early. Entire battles were won not by swords, but by words. The foolish general who took the bait doomed his men. The wise one who stayed calm let the insults die in the wind and struck when the time was right. Even Alexander the Great was once taunted by his enemies. But instead of charging blindly, he held his ground, waited, and then struck with precision. His restraint won battles that strength alone never could. Here's a twist. Insults can be gifts in disguise. They train you to master your reactions, to prove to yourself that no one owns your peace but you. Strength wins fights, restraint wins empires. So the next time an insult comes, ask yourself, will you let their words chain you, or will you let silence guard you? Because the strongest reply to an insult is not sharper words. It is the man or woman who keeps walking, untouched. If these insights open something in you, give this video a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and share it with a friend. Because sometimes one reminder at the right time can save a relationship. We began this journey with noise, the criticism, the anger, the rumors, the injustice, the insults that life throws at us. And through each of the 9 situations, you've seen how silence, when chosen, is not emptiness, but power. Along the way, you receive the silent letter exercise, a small ritual of release, a reminder that silence is not just the absence of words, but the presence of freedom. So what do we learn? That life will never stop testing us. People will attack, rumors will spread, tempers will flare. But here is the transformation. You no longer need to meet the world on its terms. You can meet it on yours. Because when you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, no one can master you. Noise fades, chaos passes, but silence chosen becomes strength. It is a blade sharpened by restraint. It cuts chains no sword can break. Remember this, every time you master silence, you are not disappearing. You are becoming untouchable. Let your quiet become a home where love restored, choices are clean, and tomorrow opens. And in that quiet strength, you'll find not loneliness, but freedom, room to love, to live, to choose on your own terms.